Welcome. I'm Cindy Edwards, President of Bias Design Digital Marketing Group and the Chair of the Chamber's Governmental Affairs Committee. On behalf of the committee, I'd like to thank you for joining us for today's Forum Onslow. The Governmental Affairs Committee works with the government agencies on issues that affect our business community, monitor legislative issues that impact local business, and promote partnerships between business, government, military, and education. The purpose of these forums is to create awareness on topics that are important to our entire community. That's why our corporate sponsor, Duke Energy Progress, has partnered with the Chamber to provide these forums for many years. They understand the importance of informing our constituents. Mr. Bob Dupuy, Duke Energy Progress Federal Account Executive and Division Chair of the Chamber's Military Affairs Committee, and Millie Chalk, Duke Energy Progress District Manager and Government for Community Relations, also in the Chamber's Board of Directors, were unable to be here with us today, but both send genuine thanks to the council and to the citizens for participating in this forum today. We'd like to thank our media sponsor, the Daily News, the City of Jacksonville for the use of these facilities, and Jacksonville Media Services for broadcasting this very important forum. And now I'll turn the podium over to Jason Harris. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm Jason Harris from Welch & Harris. I'm an attorney here in Jacksonville, and I'm here today to tell you folks a little bit about the position of Clerk of Court. I think this list is so long that I wonder if these candidates might opt to get up and run, and by the time I get done with this thing. But these candidates are vying for a 4-year term as Clerk of Court. It's a position paid for by the state. Salary is scaled according to the population of the county. Their office, of course, would be at the county courthouse just down the road. In other words, they would be my neighbor. The Clerk of Court serves a variety of roles in our judicial system. There are essentially 5. One is a judicial and quasi-judicial role. The second is an administrative role. The third is that of a record keeper. Fourth, comptroller, and fifth as a manager and supervisor. And I'll briefly tell you a few of the types of tasks associated with each. First, under the judicial role, the clerk probates wills. They participate in the administration of decedents' estates and trusts. They have the ability to declare someone incompetent and name a guardian to take care of that person. They deal with name changes, foreclosure proceedings, partitions of land, and adoptions, just by way of example. Under the administrative role, the Clerk of Court draws panels of jurors. They administer oaths, and they're the custodian of evidence. Concerning the role as record keeper, the Clerk of Court maintains original criminal, civil, juvenile, and special proceeding files. Essentially, where you go to file an action is with the Clerk of Court, and that's anything from a small claim to a very large medical malpractice or class action type of a case. In their role as record keeper, the clerk maintains the judgment docket, and the records that they maintain are so important that they can actually be relied upon by other agencies and departments such as the Department of Motor Vehicles, Vital Statistics, and the Sheriff. In the role of comptroller, the Clerk of Court handles court costs, fines, and filing fees. And fifth and finally, regarding the role as manager and supervisor, they hire and maintain a significant staff, particularly here in Onslow County, and they work closely with the magistrates. They appoint public administrators and public guardians as well. As you can tell, these roles are so varied and diverse. It's a very unique position. I even heard one clerk of court tell me, or an assistant clerk of court tell me one time, that they had to help ensure that a window would actually close properly. So they do a whole host of things at the courthouse. I like to think that they keep folks like me, the attorneys, in line. They're a tremendous, helpful resource to us and tools, not just to the bar, but also to the public. And therefore, their participation here today is very important to all of us and to the community. I see that the candidates are still sitting here, which is a good thing. And without further ado, at this point, I will now turn this over to Elliot Potter, who is the executive director and publisher of the Daily News and a past chairman of the Onslow County Jacksonville Chamber of Commerce. Elliot, ladies, good luck.
Thank you, Jason. I do want to also thank the candidates for participating tonight in the audience here today. This, as I have said before, these forums have become something of a rite of passage for candidates for political office here in Onslow County. We try to keep these very simple, informative, somewhat entertaining. To do that, we have rules that we go by, and I'd like to go over a little bit of those now. Again, tonight, this is for the audience. We have an opportunity for the live audience to participate. The folks in the audience and those watching or listening at home are welcome to participate by sending questions or comments during the program to you can send them by email to g10events@ci.jacksonville.nc.us, or you can tweet them to @G10events #Forum Onslow. So, or we will also have some people here in the audience, some of the chamber staff, and they will collect questions that people here may have on cards and then give them to me. What I'll try to do is, as the evening goes, if there are some questions that are unique to the list that I put together with some input from some chamber members and myself, then we'll try to work those into the program. I would ask that are submitting questions to keep in mind that they don't know which candidate's going to get the question, or actually both candidates will be answering the question. So please keep them general in nature. We also ask you two to submit questions for tonight, and both of you did, so I'll be asking those as well. The format that we're going to use is we're going to continue with the format that we changed about a year ago. It seems to work pretty well. As I go through the questions, each candidate will have 60 seconds to answer. If you also have an opportunity for rebuttal, you will have 3 rebuttals during the course of the evening. So what you would do is just, you have those green cards in front of you. You can, if you want to make further, or if you would like to maybe address something that the other speaker has said, just hold those cards up, and after both candidates have answered the question, then we'll start that rotation again in terms of rebuttals. At the end of the evening, after the questions have been completed, we'll also have a 2-minute summary period for each one of you. So we'll go through that. We also have basic rules of engagement, and just to sort of keep things nice and orderly, we will remind you that this is a forum. It's not, which means that we ask that you address your answers to us here in the audience. We also ask you to adhere strictly to the time limits. It really does work better that way. It just seems a lot fairer when we kind of go by, and the city of Jacksonville has a nice system here set up. You will get a yellow light when there's about 10 seconds to go, and so you need to start working towards your concluding your answer then. If you see the red light, then I would ask that you complete your thought, complete your sentence, and stop there. It may seem a little bit awkward, but I would rather be awkward than for us. My timekeeper, Christina Fernandez from the chamber staff, she looks meek and mild, but you know, she could get sort of thing on. We would just, but if you could adhere to the time limits, we sure would appreciate it. So I will ask you if you have any questions for me about the format.
Yes, sir.
With that, then we'll start. And Ms. Shepard, you're going to get the first question tonight. Please tell something about yourself, where you reside, your basic work experience, and explain why you're running for the position of Onslow County Clerk of Court.
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Loretta, and I reside in the Southwest community with my husband, Alan, whom I've been married to for over 30 years. We have 2 children. My daughter just recently graduated from Appalachian State, and my son, after serving in the Army, is now attending college. I have been an active member of Blue Creek Baptist Church for 41 years. I have worked at the Onslow County Clerk's Office for 31 years, in which I started in District Court 22 years ago, and I have actually trained in all divisions in that department. I was promoted in 2006 to an assistant clerk and was transferred to estates and special proceedings, where I am now acting in the judicial capacity. In 2011, Betty Gerganis promoted me to her administrative assistant where I've been acting and helping her in that duties.
Thank you. Ms. Brown.
Good afternoon. I'm Lisa Brown, candidate for Clerk of Court. My husband Harry and I reside here in Jacksonville. We have 3 children that all graduated from White Oak High School. We have 3 grandchildren. I'm a 1983 graduate of Southwest High School, and for a short time I attended Coastal Carolina Community College. I'm currently employed and have been for going on 31 years with the Clerk of Court's office. In 2007, I was promoted to assistant clerk and asked to supervise the largest division of the clerk's office, Criminal District Court. I've worked hard I'm currently supervising the child support and juvenile divisions. I've worked hard not only locally, but I've also worked hard to make sure Onslow County has a voice at the state level. I'm the only clerk in the history of Onslow County to have served as the president of the association that represents every assistant and deputy clerk in this state. I decided to run for Clerk of Court because I think with my experience and the relationships that I built locally and across the state, that I will effectively be able to lead this office into the 21st century.
Thank you both. Now, as I said, we had opportunities for each one of you to submit questions, and you did. So I'm going to start with those now, and I'm going to ask Ms. Shippert's first, and I will address it to you, Ms. Brown. You will get the first crack at it. And it says what makes me the most qualified candidate, but I'm going to say what makes you the most qualified candidate for the Clerk of Court.
I believe I'm the most qualified candidate because of my leadership experience. To be an effective clerk, you have to be a strong leader that can motivate people to work together and that can lead and make tough decisions. I've proven in my 6 years as a supervisor of district court, managing at least 16 people with a daily caseload of at least 1,000 cases on the calendar each day. Also, my leadership with the association, leading every assistant deputy clerk across the state into a 3-day educational conference. I was able to motivate not only the clerks from Onslow County, but the clerks from across the state to work with me as a team to have a successful conference. And I believe that those leadership qualities will prove to you that I am a strong leader. I can motivate people to work together, and I can make tough decisions, and I will be able to lead the clerk's office in a manner that you'll be proud of.
And Ms. Shippert, I'll give you a shot at your own question. What makes you the most qualified candidate for the Onslow County Clerk of Court's position?
Okay. I feel like I'm the most qualified candidate for this position because I am actually acting in Betty's seat when she is not there. I have actually been acting in the judicial capacity. I have actually handled some of the comptrollers where we are handling the money, having to bring it in. I've worked on the budget. I've also hired some of the employees. So in all of this, I feel like I have been doing that. As well, the same as my opposing candidate over here, I have been in a supervisory role. I am the supervisor of all assistants in the clerk's office. I'm the administrative assistant, so I am their boss. I feel like I have had people work in unison. We have been able to effectively, represent the public, help the public, educate them in all the different areas.
Thank you. And the next question was posed by Lisa Brown, and I will ask you first, Ms. Shippert, to address it. And that is, what one change are you planning to make as Clerk of Court that will benefit citizens of Onslow County?
Well, it would be nice to make a change. If we had an opportunity to have more space, it would be great to make change as far as to be able to combine some of the departments so that it can work more efficiently, such as having centralized cashiering and so forth. I really am not looking to make a big change at this point until we find out exactly who will be working after this election is over.
And Ms. Brown, you'll get a shot at your question.
Okay. The one change I plan to make is the way that we prioritize the training of our staff. In order for the citizens of Onslow County to receive the best service, the most efficient and knowledgeable service that they're entitled to, our staff has to be properly trained. The studies show that the number 2 reason that people leave their employment within the first year is because of inadequate training. There's no way the citizens can receive the service they deserve if the staff is not adequately trained. They have to be trained not only in their duties, but also in customer service. have to be trained and receive continuous training in order to stay updated with the changes that the General Assembly makes each year. So one of my top priorities will be sure to make certain that our staff is properly trained, they can feel confident in the service that they're giving to the citizens of Onslow County.
Thank you both. Let me ask Ms. Brown, you will be the first person to answer this question. What do you see as the most important responsibility of the clerk's office?
I believe that every responsibility of the clerk's office is just as important. Every citizen that comes in contact with the clerk's office, to them, their issue is important. What may seem trivial to me may seem life-changing to them. So I don't think that you can say that there's one duty over another that's more important. But you do have to have a strong leader. You have to have someone that can motivate people to work together. And you have to be able to organize. And I believe that my experience and the things that I've done over the years will show that I'm that type of leader.
And Ms. Shepherd.
Okay. I believe that the most important thing, as Lisa said, is everything in the clerk's office is important. I do feel like you need someone that is acting in the capacity that understands what's going on, especially in the judicial capacity. In district court, civil and superior court, and child support, you have a judge that makes the final decisions. In estates and special proceedings, a lot of those matters go before the clerk. And if you have someone who is not experienced in that department, then they will not be able to make an informed decision, and it can eventually hurt the public. You are affecting anybody's life and everybody's life.
Ms. Shepherd, you'll get the next question. I have to admit to both of you that it's a little bit strange sometimes to ask questions to candidates who have been in their jobs in the clerk's office for 3 decades plus, but here we go. I'll let you take a shot at this one. What is your assessment of the level of customer service provided by the clerk's office, including what it does well and what improvements could be made?
Okay. I feel like we have good customer service. There's always room for improvement, as with anything. As Lisa said, it is good to have the knowledge behind, because a lot of times people will come and they're asking questions and they may not know what they're asking you. And when you're trying to help them, you kind of have to fill them out to find out exactly what kind of information to give them. Sometimes they're not the happiest person. They're there for a reason, and it could be that hurt, or they're mad, or they're sad, and it could be for a number of reasons. But I feel like our customer service is good in trying to get to the bottom of what they need and then assist them in where they need to go, how they need to file their paperwork.
Ms. Brown.
Okay. I believe our clerks do a great job with their customer service. There are always times when it may not seem to the customer that they're receiving the best service that they could get. The clerks are under a lot of stress. The caseloads are large. They do the best that they can do. But it is important, like I said, the training and the knowledge, making sure that all the staff has that, is going to give them the confidence in helping that customer at the information window. It may be that you have a good employee that's working with the customer service, and that may not be their strength. So it might be that we need to look at some of the areas, and maybe someone we have working customer service would do a better job and have better strengths at another position. So I would make sure that the person we have, the first person the customers come in contact with, is someone that's knowledgeable and confident in their service.
Okay, and Ms. Shepherd, you already answered that question on the customer service, so I'm going to ask a question to Ms. Brown to address this. Why should the clerk of court be an elected position? Or perhaps, why not?
I believe the clerk of court should be an elected position, because I believe the people of the county should have a voice in who's running their courthouse. Too many times we see people appointed to positions, and it's all in who you know, who you owe, what you can do for someone. So I believe it's very important that the clerk be an elected position, that everyone in the county have a voice. The clerk of court is a very important responsibility. You do preside over hearings, you do render judgments that affect people's lives, and I think the everyday citizen deserves a voice in who's running the courthouse.
Ms. Shepard, the question here is, why should the clerk of court's office be an elected position, or perhaps why not?
I kind of have mixed feelings on that. To a degree, I feel like it should be an elected position, but then therefore, I feel like a lot of people in the public, like Ms. Brown was saying, people need to have a voice, but a lot of people in the public do not know clerk's office. They don't realize what their role is. They don't realize what type of paperwork we have to handle. And so they really sometimes cannot make an informed decision as to who should be the next clerk. I feel like sometimes it should just be a job that someone is qualified to do.
Thank you. And you will get the first shot at this question. Would you say the current budget is adequate for the operation of the clerk's office? Can you identify any areas for increased efficiencies and possible savings?
No, I do not feel like the budget is adequate for the clerk's office. For the past 5 years, we have not been given raises until this past year, and we have been told every year to make budget cuts, to cut costs in all corners. A lot of times cutting costs and not getting a raise sometimes comes down, it trickles down from the top to the bottom, and it will sometimes cause people to have a poor attitude at work, and it will also cause us not to be able to be as efficient as far as getting the paperwork processed and so forth.
And Ms. Brown, I'll repeat the question. Would you say the current budget is adequate for operation of the clerk's office? Can you identify any areas for increased efficiencies and possible savings?
I would agree with Ms. Shepard, the budget is not adequate, but that's the case in most state agencies these days. So we have to be mindful of waste. We have to just try to do the best that we can do with what we have. I believe that maybe our agencies could work together to try to eliminate some of the duplications that we have. That would be one way in savings. I believe we need better technology in the courthouse. We need to make our records more accessible to the citizens so that maybe they can go online and access some of the documents that they need, which would free up time for the clerk so that they can do other important job duties. So our budget's not adequate, but we have to make the best with what we have. And I'm conservative enough, I would make sure that my staff is mindful of the waste and doing the best that we do.
I think we have our first rebuttal of the evening. Ms. Shepard,
Okay.
you have 30 seconds.
I was just wanting to make a response to Ms. Brown's comment about the technology being able to increase. Unfortunately, with the state of North Carolina, our technology comes from Raleigh. Anything that we have, the computers, the printers, copiers, the faxes, all of that equipment is actually mandated through the administrative office of the courts. The clerk's office does not have a budget for the actual technology.
And we have another rebuttal from Ms. Brown.
That's correct. Our budget does come from the administrative office of the courts, but as an elected clerk, I would make sure I have a voice at the state level. I would continue to lobby for what Onslow County needs, regardless of the mandates AOC is on us. I would make sure my voice was heard loud and clear in Raleigh, and that we would be one of the counties that would be first in line when something was available.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Brown, you get the first crack at the next one. What responsibility does the clerk's office have in people who have limited proficiency in English when they have legal issues such as child custody, child support, or other business with the office?
The clerk's office has a huge responsibility to help all citizens, regardless of what your situation is. We do have interpreter services available. The clerks need to be educated and know how to reach out to those services when they're necessary. It's also, and I believe that we have staff that can help the Spanish-speaking community, or even regardless of what language or what disability they had, it would be helpful to make sure that you have someone on staff that can help with that. But we do have a line available on the phone that you can call if you have a customer at your window that you're having difficulty with their language. We have the phone conferencing that would help with that. So it's an important role that we have to make sure that we're taking advantage of.
Ms. Short, I'm going to read that question again for you. What responsibility does the clerk's office have in helping people who have limited proficiency in English when they have legal issues such as child custody, child support, or perhaps other business with the clerk's office?
Okay. We do have the resources where a lot of times we will actually call in an interpreter. It may be an interpreter for the hearing impaired. It may be an interpreter for a different language and so forth. Some of those services are actually paid for through the state. Some of them are actually paid for by the petitioners, depending on what type of case it is and so forth. I feel like, we have a limited number, and most of us have a deputy in our clerk's office that speaks another language, especially when it comes to Spanish. So that's usually one that is pretty easy to have someone come in and interpret. We actually have a couple of people in the clerk's office that speak Spanish and can interpret out. So I feel like, it is a responsibility for us to try to help them. And some of our forms are actually done in Spanish and in English.
I'd like to take a second to thank both of you for adhering to the time limits. It's going really smoothly, and both of you, I think, also have 2 rebuttals left. Feel free to use them. Ms. Shepard, I believe you get this question next. As the clerk of court, what can you do to help people better understand how the court system works? What ideas do you have for educating the public about how to use services of the clerk's office?
Okay. Well, as far as trying to get information, we have a website. Most people now have the computers. They've got their iPhone. You can go online and look up resources. There are forms online. There's actually different types of calendars that are posted online. Almost anything that you need, you can pull it up on the internet. The North Carolina court system has their own form for helping people. If you're not sure how to fill out certain forms, there are forms that have instructions with them. I mean, as far as informing people when they come to the clerk's office, I would think that each one of our staff members would be able to maybe relay certain information to them and help them.
Ms. Brown, I'll repeat the question for you. As the clerk of court, what can you do to help people better understand how the court system works? What ideas do you have specifically for educating the public about how to use the services of the clerk's office?
I'm a strong proponent for community involvement. So I believe one of the ways to reach out to our community is for the clerk's office to be involved in the community activities, participate in job fairs, continue to go out, as I'm doing in my campaign, face-to-face, meeting people and explaining to them the responsibilities of the clerk's office and what we have to offer. I believe that we should have handouts available to the people that come in, listing websites and other resources that are available to them, help them to be able to do their own research, and mainly just staying involved in the community. I think that's the best way. Not everybody's going to read handouts and pamphlets that you give, but people will respond to you face-to-face on a person-to-person level.
Candace, we've kind of touched on this a little bit, but I'll give you an opportunity to elaborate. And Ms. Brown, you will get this question first. What can be done to make some of the information that's available through the clerk's office more accessible to the general public?
I believe we could have stations set up throughout the courthouse with the handouts and the information available. One of the things I did when I began supervising the child support department is I revised a instructions sheet that handout to the people when they called in wanting information on how to file motions in their cases. I believe we could have more of an involvement in our website, maybe making suggestions to the administrative office of the courts, what type of information our community needs and what type of information we feel is important to be available on our website for our citizens.
Ms. Shepherd, what can be done to make some of the information available through the Clerk of Court's office more accessible to the general public?
I agree with Ms. Brown. I think that if we have handouts and so forth, that is something that will help. There are, in the estates division, we have several packets that we can put together when people come in and want to get forms. However, in the civil division and in special proceedings, a lot of your cases do not actually have forms. Some of them, they have to have an attorney prepare. Everybody's case is going to be different. If you're filing a partition, you're not going to have the same amount of people, might not be the same type of property and so forth. It may actually be that you need to sell property instead of dividing it because it cannot be divided and so forth. So you just have to kind of tell them that they'll need an attorney to help prepare their paperwork. We do suggest to them, if they are military, they can go to base legal. They can help them, and we suggest that they talk to attorneys in the different categories of the cases that they're trying to file, whether it's a civil case or if it's a family law or a criminal charge and so forth. But I do agree that handouts are better.
Okay, thank you. You will get the first crack at this question. What enforcement and collection authority does the clerk have with respect to fines and penalties assessed by the clerk? What are your personal points of emphasis in this area of the clerk's responsibility?
Okay, the clerk does have a big responsibility in collecting fees and so forth. In most of our cases, we are collecting fees daily when they're filed. If they come in and file proceedings or state, they have a filing fee before they get their document. If they go to traffic court or to superior court and it's a criminal offense, the judge is giving them their fines and court costs. Depends on how they are told that they have to pay. Some of them have to pay right away. Some of them have to pay after they're on probation. We do have the credit card provision now. A lot of people are coming in and they're able to actually make their payments with credit card. And then some of them have to ask for time to pay. But we do have a system in place as to how we have to collect funds.
Ms. Brown, what enforcement and collection authority does the clerk have with respects to fines and penalties assessed by the court? And what are your personal points of emphasis in this area of the clerk's responsibility?
Okay. The clerk is responsible for enforcing the collection of fines and court costs that are due. It's our responsibility. There's reports available to us. We have to make sure that we're printing these reports daily and that we're following the procedures that are set out by the Administrative Office of the Courts with us as far as these reports are concerned and helping us to collect what's owed. We have to make sure that we're notifying the correct departments, such as Department of Motor Vehicles. If fines and fees aren't paid, then we need to make sure we're putting that information in so that those people's driver's license can be revoked to give them some incentive to come into our office and make their payments. We have to make sure we're issuing the orders for arrest for the failure to comply. If the judge has given them time to pay and they haven't come in, it's our responsibility to make sure we're keeping up to date with those cases and that we're following up on those. So I think we just need to continue to be aware of the reports and the things that are available to us and make sure we're following with proper procedures.
All right, thank you. We'll go to you will have, Ms. Brown, you will have the first crack at the next question. We've touched on this issue a couple of times, but we all know that technology has impacted all areas of life. How has it impacted the clerk's office, and how should it impact the clerk's office as it regards offering services to county residents?
To keep up with the heavy case that we have, our technology is very important. It makes the clerk's job a lot easier if she can take the judgment in the courtroom while she's putting it into the computer and it's already relayed to DMV rather than her having to handwrite the judgment, carry it to a computer, enter it, and then notify DMV. So our technology is very important, makes our job a lot easier. It gives the citizens of Onslow County better results in what they're expecting. And I think we need to just keep lobbying for better technology, a bigger budget to help us with our technology. The citizens need to be able to access the information online instead of having to come down to the courthouse for every little bit of information that they need.
Ms. Shepherd.
Okay. I agree with Ms. Brown that technology does affect our department, and there is room for improvement in technology. It would be great if we could have updated technology, but again, I've said that comes from the administrative office of the court, so what they allow us to have is what we have to use. They implement the programs that we use, and they implement how we use them. Most of our systems are unified across the state. They have to tie into other computers. The Department of Corrections is tied into the clerk's office. The Department of Motor Vehicles is tied in. We have all these different divisions that have to be able to look into our system as well. So it has to be a unified system. As far as us trying to get the forms and correct, there is a lot of that in place. We now have what we call the NC Aware. We have the CCIS, and we have the Traffic Pay.
Thank you. You will get, Ms. Shepherd, you will get the next question first. I'm sorry. That big old green button there, I missed it.
I just want to make one comment. Our technology is mandated by AOC, but where the clerk's role is important is you have to make your voice heard. You have to continue to lobby. The people in Raleigh have to know who you are, and that you have to fight for what your county gets. And I will make sure that the people in Raleigh and the people across the state know who the clerk of court in Onslow County is, and that I'm fighting for what we deserve.
Okay. Thank you very much. And I will move to Ms. Shepherd for the first crack at the next question, which is one of the most important relationships that the clerk's office has is the legal community. How can the clerk ensure that the office maintains a professional working relationship with attorneys and others involved in the practice of law?
Could you ask that question again?
Sure. It's basically a question about the relationships with the legal community, and you know, how can the clerk's office how can the clerk ensure that her office or his office maintains a professional working relationship with attorneys and others who are involved in the practice of law?
I feel like we currently have a good working relationship with the attorneys and the other professionals. In my department, I actually deal with a lot of out-of-town attorneys, sometimes out-of-state, and we do try to make sure that we are very professional with them, and we allow them to come in and file their cases and so forth. If someone has a question about something that needs to be filed and they're calling us for information, you know, usually if there's something we're not sure about the procedure, we will check it out and then give them a call back. But I do feel like our office overall has a very good working relationship with the attorneys.
Ms. Brown, this question again is about the relationships that the clerk's office has with the legal community. How can you ensure that there's a good professional relationship between the clerk's office and attorneys and others who are involved in the practice of law?
We do have a good relationship with our legal community, with our attorneys and with our judges. We're constantly receiving praise from out-of-town attorneys and out-of-town judges that visit our county. It's important that you just make sure that your staff shows the respect that the legal community deserves, but we also in return expect the same respect from the legal community with the clerks. We're all working for the same cause, and if we just work together as a team and show the respect that each deserves, then we'll continue to have a great relationship.
Okay. Thank you both. And Ms. Brown, you will have first crack at this question. And this is a little bit of a broader vision question I had earlier about the funding specifically for the clerk's office, but now I want to see what your vision of maybe the court system in general would be if you had control of funding the courts, what would you do differently to improve how the court system functions?
Would maybe look at the possibility of holding night courts or holding court, having some of the staff work on different time schedules where some of them come in later and stay later so that the citizens of Onslow County that work 8 to 5 would have the opportunity after work to come into the courthouse. One of the important things for us, though, would be better facilities. We have our desks piled on top of each other as it is. We hire more employees. We have no place to put the staff. We're running out of places to put our files. So I would like to see the state court system go to a more paperless, where we have things online and on the computer rather than having the actual file papers that we have to deal with every day.
Ms. Shepard, again, a little bit of a broader vision question than just the clerk's office, but it entails it all, which would be, if you had control of the funding of the courts, what would you do differently to improve the court system?
Well, it would be nice to be able to have more room and even a place to actually store our files. We do have lots of files. Again, in the department that I work in, we have a lot of the incompetency proceedings. We have to keep those records for like 50 years or more. Some of our estate proceedings, we have them as far back as 60 years. And we have people that will come in and be researching. They're doing title searches for property that's being sold or being foreclosed, or someone has passed away and they're wanting to sell it or divide it or whatever. And they have to come in and research those. Some of the files cannot be purged and cannot be taken anywhere. They have to be maintained. So it would be nice if we had a bigger facility to be able to accommodate that. I did speak earlier that if we had the funding, it would be nice to be able to have centralized cashiering.
Well, I've actually come down to my last question before we do the summation, so if you've got a green card that you're kind of hanging on to, you can use it now, or you can just take it home with you. I believe, Ms. Shepard, you have this question first. The clerk maintains many records, most of which are legally required to be available to the public, but there also have been many privacy issues that have been raised in recent years. How does the clerk balance public access, privacy rights of individuals?
A lot of our forms used to have where you had to put your Social Security numbers on there, but as they have gone through the Privacy Act, they have actually removed that, and they ask for like the last 4 digits of your Social Security number. Whenever we have estates that are being open and there is someone that is having a bank account put on there, a lot of times we will tell them not to put the bank account information on there. So our record system, and we are telling our employees when they come to work to try to make sure that they do not put any kind of important information that can cause any kind of identity theft or anything down the road in the files.
Ms. Brown, I'll repeat the question for you. The clerk maintains many records, most of which are legally required to be available to the public, yet there have been many privacy issues raised in recent years. How can the clerk balance public access and the privacy of individuals?
Seems like I'm repeating myself a lot, but training is very important. We have to make sure that our staff is well trained and that they understand the privacy and the public policies. We have to make sure that they understand what the public has access to, and that they understand that they have to make the arrangements for the public to have access to those things entitled to in a manner, and that we provide the facilities where they can sit down and go through the records if that's what they wish. So I think mainly we just have to stay, up on our training and make sure everybody understands these and that they're following them.
Okay. Any rebuttals here? You know, efficiency I know is important in the clerk's office, and you two have efficiently worked through my list of questions, so we are here to the summation. And Ms. Brown, you go first. You have 2 minutes.
First of all, I'd like to say thanks to the Chamber and the sponsors for hosting this event, to the audience and to the viewers at home for taking the time to get to know your candidates. Ladies and gentlemen, my opponent and I are on a level playing field when it comes to our experience. So you have to ask yourself what separates us. And my answer to that question is our leadership experience and our leadership abilities. In order to be an effective clerk of court, you have to be a leader, They can motivate people to work together as a team, and they can make tough decisions. I have proven in my 6 years of supervising a department that has 16 employees with a huge caseload, and with a position on the executive board with the association that represents every assistant clerk in this state. I've carried them through a 3-day educational conference. I was able to motivate our county as well as other counties to work together to make that a successful conference. I have been supervising the child support division for the last week and a half while we've been dealing with the flooding issue that the courthouse went through. During this time, the employees in that department, which is myself and 2 other ladies, with the help of the county maintenance team, we have packed up, unloaded thousands of files. We've had our furniture out in the hallway. While all that was going on, we still managed to carry out our everyday duties. We still managed to service the public, and we still managed to hold court in an effective manner, all without Mrs. Gerganis having to be involved and without her having to worry about what was going on in our department. That's the kind of leader I am, ladies and gentlemen. I can lead you strongly, I can motivate people to work together, and I can make tough decisions. I am, without a question, the best candidate for this position, and I ask you for your vote on November the 4th for Lisa Brown, Clerk of Court. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Ms. Shepard, you have 2 minutes for your closing summation.
Okay. I would again like to thank the Chamber for having this forum, and for everyone that is watching and here today. I want to thank you for being here and for supporting me. I also want to let you know that I feel like I am the best candidate because I feel like in this particular job that I am doing now, I have been in a leadership position as well. I know Ms. Brown has indicated that she has been a strong leader. I too have been a strong leader in the fact that I have been able to hold cases and hear cases and be able to do this without Ms. Gerganis having to come in and look over my shoulder as to whether I'm doing the judicial capacity of the clerk's office any kind of injustice. I feel like she is very confident in my skills and my ability and being able to be an efficient worker. I also feel like that if she goes out, when she goes out, that this will be a smooth transition for everyone to be able to know that I can just step right into what she was doing, and we will not have a lot of training that is lost.
Well, again, I would like to thank you both for your participation and very informative forum and insightful answers. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Elliot. I'm going to let Lisa. On behalf of the Chamber of Commerce and its Board of Directors, Lisa, Loretta, number 1, thank you for being here, being part of our forum. Number 2, thank you for your willingness to serve. You both have a lot of passion for this position, this very important position, and I want to wish you both the best of luck in November. I want to also thank the Chamber staff that helped with this event, Jack Bowen, who is our staff liaison for the Meet the Candidate forums, Christina on the time clock, and Dawn Jensen helping with photography, and then Teresa Carter is helping us tonight as well. Thanks again to our corporate sponsor, Progress, our media sponsor, the Daily News, the City of Jacksonville for allowing us to use this wonderful facility for our forums, and of course G10 for broadcasting and rebroadcasting this important forum. This concludes our program. Thank you.